low to the wall. With a couple capos and 100 for the dime. College lot of gang, you get your shit bought. Tango with a drum, leave your chain never go stop. You got that night or shit.
All right, welcome back, guys, to If I Was Your Therapist,
where we talk about your favorite Black movies
that pull at all our heartstrings,
where we give our therapeutic advice. So Jason's lyric, guys, is all about the struggle of war, substance abuse, childhood trauma, and violence. You got a family that's dealing with a lot of things. We're talking about struggles from the war. We're talking about an amputee. We're talking about two young boys growing up. They are struggling in their life. There's a mom, there are two boys, and then a dad that are the main people. And then, of course, later there's a love interest that ultimately kind of pulls the whole thing together. In this movie, Jason is the protagonist of the movie. He is the one who is spending his whole life trying to protect his younger brother, who is extremely emotionally unstable, violent, and just looking for the quick way to make the dollar. Throughout this movie, Jason feels very responsible for his brother, wanting to protect him. It's funny that he's the protagonist and his brother is the antagonist because Jason is light-skinned, fair-skinned, curly hair. So it kind of gives that vibe of he is the savior for the family. Younger sibling is a little wild, and they have childhood trauma. They've experienced something back in the day that has really impacted them. His relationship with Lyric is like a complete escape. It kind of pulls him away completely from everything that he was struggling with his brother, with his mom, with the things of being an older child. Lyric is just, everything good and beautiful, and he gets to have that chase and get out of that mode of being a protector and really gets to experience love. So while this is a movie about trauma, a movie about violence, it is a love story to its core. Jason is dealing with deep guilt after accidentally killing his father. After his brother is wanting to protect his mother after they get into an altercation. It's really sad. And so his whole life, he's making up for that moment. His pattern of protecting women from other emotionally unstable men is what he pretty much finds his whole life doing. So I'll get into what I would do for Jason if I was his therapist. We would do a lot of work around his childhood trauma. We would do a lot of work around the grief of his father and his brother, both deaths that he pretty much witnessed and experienced head on, and also the future planning for what it looks like for his life with Lyric. If you remember in the movie, Lyric was shot. They're on a bus. We don't know where they're going, what they're going to do. They are ultimately just escaping. But I want Jason to feel that sense of a new beginning versus that guilt of what he left behind, because he was afraid to leave his mother behind. His brother has now passed away. And so that would be my approach, is helping him to create a new normal.
I love that you talked about like the colorism, because that's something that comes up a lot in our community.
Absolutely. It was highlighted for sure in this movie. Jason was literally the only fair-skinned person in the whole family, and he was the one who was good and working to be good and help everyone out, while his brother was, darker and just had a whole different look than him. His brother was younger but bald. Jason had a head full of hair and curly. It was very interesting how they chose to do that character choice.
Yeah, I really appreciated how Lyric and him and Jason bonded over wanting to leave. She was a little bit more eccentric, a little bit more eclectic, and he was the one that chose a different route, that chose a different path. So I appreciate how they bonded on that. And if I were to work with him, that's something I would rely on. Hey, this is something that you have that is unique. Rely on that. Understand that things are not going to always be easy, but you chose a path that was less taken, but it is a lot of things to build upon. That's very positive, very positive.
Absolutely. I love your point of view as far as like him being able to understand you have a new experience. There's a world outside of the one that you're currently experiencing from childhood up until this point with the death of your brother. Life doesn't have to be this way where you're fighting tooth and nail to stop your little brother from robbing a bank.
Right. And I really want to know, is he upset? I want to gauge his actual feelings about the passing of Joshua, because that's his brother's name, Joshua. And I really think it's interesting that he went through something where he saved him. He spent his whole life trying to save him. And now there's no one to save. What is your purpose now? What is there to do? How do you feel about that? So asking those questions, I would really love to see what is his mindset at this space.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we ask a lot in therapy is the miracle question. And so if everything goes exactly like how you hope for it to be, what does life look like? So I would really dive into that with Jason to give him an opportunity to dream, to experience life in a new way, to give himself permission that things how they have been with the trauma, with all of the responsibility, can look totally different in his new life.
Yes, I'll go ahead and talk about Joshua. And what I thought was very interesting about him, like you mentioned, there was a lot of substance abuse. He was an alcoholic. And the friend group that he kept, they really did not want to stand up to him. They could not stand up to him. And I really thought that was interesting because the only person that could calm him, not even his mother, was his brother. And that is a very monumental, strong position, role to have another man in. This isn't your father. This isn't your mother. This is another man who has his own life, his own burden. So I would love to understand what was his thinking around that. And then also the level of codependency is wild. I would want to do something simulating, reverting back to his childhood and having a conversation with young Joshua. When you went and got that gun, what were you thinking? What were some of the thoughts that you had when you saw your brother take it and do what you wanted to do? I would love to go back and kind of pick those things apart because I honestly feel like a lot of the things that broke down in his life later on stem from that very moment. I think he got a lot of things misconstrued with my brother is supposed to take care of a lot of things that my mom can't even handle. My brother is. So I think that kind of disassociated him from what really was supposed to be his responsibility. His ability, his capacity to even be accountable for anything it seemed like it was gone in that instance. And it kind of changed the trajectory of his life. He was in and out of jail. So it'd be a lot of rehabilitating back into the workforce. What does working look like? He was able to hold a job. And then his mama, she would work that job all the way to the end and lost it because he stole $20 out the register. Her register ain't never been short. And he was able to, and that's what we would like to call a functioning addict. Somebody that is able to maintain something for a good amount of time. But then one instance, one straw, one event, one feeling, throw all of it, crash out. Throw all of it away and you're not taking into consideration your mom. You're not taking into consideration you being able to get a job after that. He never really took the future into consideration. So if he were still alive, doing work with him around risk and reward, what are his decision-making skills, and then that accountability, being able to take accountability as a grown Black man. Sure. So those are some of the things that I would do. What's on you guys' mind with Joshua?
I really love that you highlighted his substance abuse because I think that was something he relied on really heavy. His drinking, it was kind of his way of escaping some of the stresses of his life. Another thing that really stood out to me about this character is he had this moment where he purchases dinner for the family and they're like, it's so beautiful. And it's like the mom just could not get behind that, with how he was making his money. So that was kind of disappointing that this one opportunity for them to have that enjoyable family moment in the midst of so much chaos and trauma, it was kind of just destroyed.
Yeah.
So giving him some opportunities to process his feelings around that.
When I think of Joshua, I think of somebody with a shattered sense of self, someone who is extremely guilty deep down inside and who is just really suffering. There is a scene where he says to Jason after, I think he comes home drunk and Jason is upset. They're in their childhood bedroom. And he says something like, I'm not having those dreams anymore. He was having nightmares about what happened to his father. Which led him to kind of live this lifestyle being in and out of jail. These things don't just happen because people make the decision for them to happen. It is a result of them experiencing PTSD. So our work would be very deep around managing and coping with his lifestyle instead of having a drink, how about we go do some other things, introducing other healthy things that who's going to tell you that when you live in this lifestyle with everyone surrounding you is doing the same things? So I would hope to be that person to provide him with new insight of maybe you can go take a walk. I know as corny as it sounds, where you're going to walk in good, but go find you a trail. These are other options of things that you can begin to do. What does it look like to volunteer with kids, right? Rehabilitation is a huge thing, especially for felons, and there are options, but a lot of times we don't know, and that's how people get lost into the system. So my work would be to keep him from going back to jail, using drugs again, and being able to manage his life after all of these things have happened to him.
Yep, that sounds good. So let's get into Lyric. So Lyric, she kind of had a real tough demeanor to me. Like she was really hard to access. Jason really heavily pursued her, and it seemed to me like she had some unresolved issues, like probably relationship issues and family issues. We really didn't see Lyric's parents. And so I wonder about extended family, other sources of support. If I was to work with Lyric, I would want her to just give herself permission to love again. Really unpack some of the, I want to say bitterness or resentment, some of that like need to feel tough all of the time. I would also want to work with her on setting boundaries because her brother was very controlling prior to her like moving out and her brother dying. I would want to work with her on just moving out and giving herself permission that she can have a different type of life than what life has looked like. We really don't see Lyric having many friends. She had one friend, and that one friend just seemed kind of toxic. The feedback that she was giving to her just really wasn't the best guidance or advice. And so I will work with Lyric on developing new friendships, new girlfriends where she's able to get healthy advice and on relationships, on friendships, romantic relationships. I think these things would really make a difference in Lyric's life. What do you guys think about Lyric?
I know for me, what I appreciated about Lyric was it. Well, I didn't really I don't appreciate it clinically, but what I appreciate about it in the movie was she was a mystery. Mm-hmm. She was a mystery. Mm-hmm. And what I also really love about what Kenyatta's approach was, with really majority of the characters, it was more solution focused. What I noticed about my approach with all of these characters was it was more psychodynamic. We're going back to your childhood. We need to talk about some of those things and work our way forward. And I see the same thing with Lyric. Baby, what did your mama do? Where did you come from? What are your past relationships like? Like, I think that there was no background to her. The only background that she had was her brother. And that wasn't a positive background to have. And I think it's very interesting you mentioned her friend, because I have a slightly different view of the friend. Yes, I do believe she was toxic in some of her moves because she didn't feel like she was deserving of the same life that Lyric had. What I thought was so specifically interesting about that character is she's the same character from Love Jones that told Nia Long she was living vicariously through her. And I feel like she's doing the same thing in this movie where she's living vicariously through the lead character. She was able to quote Bell Hooks' poem to her to let you know, I'm not just a regular around the way girl. So I see the similarities between her and Lyric's character, but she didn't think she deserved a guy like Jason. She didn't. So I think that Lyric, that was one of the reasons why Lyric was like, yeah, baby, it's time for me to leave. The one good friend I got, she don't even think she deserved the things, whatever the case may be, but really figuring out what her real spill is and what are you running from? What are you actually running from? I don't think you shouldn't run. You should still run. But what are you actually running from so you know where you're actually going? So it's just not running for no reason.
Yes. just like you said, where are you running from? My thing, my work with Lyric would look like, what are you running to? Like you said, it's a complete mystery on who she is, what she likes. She just worked at the diner and she was just fine. That was literally her role. She was nice, she was cute, she was a mysterious woman. She made Jason chase her of like, oh, well, you'll see me when the footprints, like you could tell that she loves these interesting things. She can take someone from this world to a whole nother world. She took them to a place where they would have never gone had it not been for her mind and her interest in these things. So she has the capacity to create a whole new world, but I would want to know what her potential look like, what she wants, what are her thoughts, her happies, the things that she enjoys, her interests, to really develop her out to be a person of whatever the rest of your life is going to look like. Because yeah, you run away from the old with your brother, but how do you create a life for yourself? So that would be my work with her. I do believe, like you said, Doc, that she has some trauma because she was not trying to give Jason any play. It was almost as if she was a bit suspicious of his intentions and what he wanted, which is fair in the dating world, even now, of trying to figure out, hey, what are your intentions with me? How far are you willing to go to get me? And naturally with persistence and the truth of who you are, you get to see who that person is. I'm curious to know, at what point does she say to herself, I gotta leave this guy alone because he has too much going on? If we were working together and she were telling me some of these things that were going on with Jason, I wonder would I advocate for this relationship? Because little lady definitely got shot behind the wild brother. She made it, but imagine if it would have been another story.
That's a good point. I don't know if she communicated. I don't know if Jason communicated the severity of his brother's addiction or the spillover into his day-to-day life. I think she got wind of it. I think that time at the fair,
Yes.
she was able to see a little bit of what he had to offer then. And I think honestly, then she kind of started stepping back. When she saw that, she honestly started stepping back and he leaned in a little bit further. So he was very persistent and I think she liked that because that was something that made him stand out even more. Her being a little bit resistant in the beginning was to weed out the weaker links. It worked in the past, so I'm going to continue to do that. And he steadfast. He endured. He made it through the other side. So I think on the therapeutic side, we would have advocated for him just a little bit because out of the environment, baby is giving tens across the board. But that's in that environment, and she was wanting to leave that environment. So who's to say?
Who's to say? Jason was up on that ledge saying, I never been here before.
Like it wasn't Robbie Kona. Cannot deal.
It was just a ledge, So I would want Lyric to really stretch her wings and fly and see who she could truly be if I were working with her, if she was my client.
Really enjoyed the dates that they went on, like the grassy area. Now they got a little frisky out there, but it was it was so beautiful. They're on this like creek and then the museum scene, and it was just so many. It was like they were experiencing all of these wonderful days that were kind of simplistic in a way, but so beautiful.
Yeah. It made sense why he fought for the relationship so much. You literally brought the beauty out in plain sight. Things that were around, like he knew about that museum. He knew that he could get access to that bus, but he did not think about those options until Lyric unleashed. There's a bridge in these woods over here. There's things here that you haven't even seen. There's more than the sadness of your life. And once he got a whiff of that, oh baby, he wasn't going nowhere.
Stuck like Chuck. And it goes to show the power of somebody bringing another perspective into your life through love. Like I said, even though this is a big story about trauma, fighting, grief, death, all types of stuff, it's truly just a love story of two people that both have siblings that are a pain in the behind, who you have to constantly fight with. And it's just y'all. It's just y'all in this world. And you get to escape and see something beautiful and get to experience that with a person who you find attractive. Beautiful.
Very much so. And I love the point you made about another perspective, because that's what therapy is, bringing another perspective. And if you're interested in having therapy with one of us, go to Atlanta Couple Therapy and book now. This has been this week's episode of If I Was Your Therapist, where we're talking about Black movies
That pull at your heartstrings,
That we all love.
that we love and know. Your
See you
favorite Black movies. See you next